Hello, and welcome to another episode of Kingdom Social Justice Solutions. Thank you again for listening to the podcast. Really appreciate everyone that's been supporting the podcast and listening in to the different episodes. And I definitely want to hear your feedback. So if you want to contact me, please, you can contact me at the website at www.kingdomlawjustice.com. You can also contact me at kingdomlawllc@gmail.com. or check out our Facebook page on Kingdom Law and Justice LLC. Once again, this is your host, Shalonda Smith, and I'm excited about the episode that we have today. I have special guest, Miss Marcela Evans, and with the recent things that's been going on in regards to immigration and the things that's been coming out in the news, and just I'm really concerned about how us as a country is handling issues that are going on. And so I had the privilege of meeting someone that actually practices immigration law, and just was interesting to hear in her take and the area that she has been exposed to and kind of what's going on in the immigration field. And so I asked her to be on the show because definitely wanted to hear her take and wanted to share it with you, and she graciously agreed. So I am happy to have with me this morning Miss Marcela Evans. Please welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shalonda, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to talk with you today because I absolutely love what you're doing with this and your focus on solutions to what we, all of the different things that are happening around us and how we can actually move towards solutions for them. And I absolutely love that.
Okay. Yeah, and it's something that I have been thinking about for a while, and so I'm happy to have the opportunity to do it. Like I said, once again, I'm glad I ran into you, and so now we can get some better insight, on this immigration issue. So Miss Evans, so where did you grow up, and just kind of a little background? Where did you grow up, and what did you aspire to do while growing up?
Absolutely. So I actually grew up in Arlington, Texas. I always aspired to do something to make a difference. That was and is my always guiding light. My mom is from Lima, Peru. My dad's family is from the Midwest. And so I grew up in a household with a variety of different cultural influences. My mom actually both of my parents come from families of educators, and my mom was focused on bilingual education and basically working with recently arriving people from other countries to help them learn the English language, which is the predominant language right here in the U.S. And so with that, I had a lot of different cultural influences, and I think that like all of that exposure to all of these wonderful people from different places really sparked my interest in working with people with backgrounds different than mine from places that were outside of Texas, outside of the United States, and having the opportunity to learn about all of these other places in the world that led me to a very windy road that led me to immigration law. Which is what I have been doing most recently in my effort to make the world a better place and help people.
Okay, that's interesting how basically your childhood and your parents and your upbringing helped kind of shaped and kind of directed you in what you'd be doing. Like I said, most recently, that's very interesting and awesome that you had that opportunity, basically that exposure at such a young age. Yeah, that's very interesting how that all came together. So in having that experience, so what was your career journey? Like, how did you get to where you are today?
So I was very fortunate to take a quirky but very traditional route. I graduated from high school and I went to college. I did jump schools I was a communications major initially, and I thought I was going to do something with media. And I switched over to liberal arts, which allowed me to really explore a lot of my interests. And I ended up with a degree in Latin American studies, this focus on literature, which isn't actually the most solid way to make a living in life, but was fascinating and allowed me to learn a lot. And, you know, I'm a reader, and so I got to read all this different literature and learn about what influenced, like what was behind the literature, you know, what was going on in society that encouraged people to write in these particular pieces that we were studying, you know, what the social structures were in different places. And that really got me thinking about all of the different kaleidoscopic ways this world works together and influences what we see, like what we read, you know, what we see on the TV, what we see on movies and hear on the radio and different things. It all is influenced in the experiences that we're having in the world around us. And I took that into law school because the way that I was thinking about it is that when you learn about the structures behind all of these events that are happening, then you can work with them and work to make a difference in the community and hopefully solve some of the problems that you see, not only just spot the issues, but come up with solutions for them and maybe make the world a better place, and a more positive place for everybody, positive and inclusive, right? Not just for one, but for everybody, because we're all in it together.
Right. And I think that's why we kind of hit it off and really connected is, you know, seeing the purpose of law school and using it as a tool, you know, to address, like I said, understanding that the law is the foundation and like the structure, you know, to how everything functions in society. And so using that to help fix the issues, you know what I'm saying, to provide solutions to fix the problems that we see in our society. So yeah, I like that, your take on that. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say absolutely. That's exactly right. I mean, that's I think what I was so attracted to about you and your energy and your outlook and everything, as well as is that like we see the law as a tool to make positive impact.
Right. Okay, so how did you so what brought you to the immigration? I mean, I know you said you kind of explained your journey, so I guess the specific area of immigration law, or did you have something happen in law school, or, you know, how did that work?
So that's a funny story. I actually worked for an immigration law firm after college and before law school. Okay. And I didn't love it. I saw the value in the work. I saw that it was a way to help people, but I didn't really understand the social impact of it. During law school, I decided that I wanted to do more of like a public interest, public service type of law. And I had some friends, and we thought very ambitiously that during law school we could try to start a nonprofit and do all of these great things. And so as we started working towards that was like a really admirable goal. But after graduation, I went to school in Oklahoma, and then I ended up back here in Texas. And a couple of my other friends ended up in other parts of the country. So it just wasn't something that we were able to continue. But I met somebody here who told me about volunteer opportunities, specifically with immigration, with nonprofits that did immigration work, because we were thinking of focusing on anti-human trafficking work. And so I got back into immigration really because I was doing some work with an agency that I ended up working with later on, Human Rights Initiative of North Texas. And so I took pro bono cases through HRI for 4 or 5 years. And then I ended up on staff for a little over 4 years. And that is how I got into immigration, really.
Okay.
By volunteering.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember telling some of the younger, I guess showing my age now, but some of the younger attorneys that sometimes that is how you can get, you know, your foot in the door in certain areas, or even find out what you really like, and it's through volunteering. I think oftentimes we want to go ahead and get that, that great job. But sometimes you may have to just start out with just, volunteering. And somebody has once told me, whatever you're willing to do for free, that might be, the area that you probably want to pursue. So,
Yeah.
So what has your experience been like practicing immigration law?
So it's been difficult. I would say that it's been rewarding, but it's definitely it's been difficult, and it's become more difficult. Okay. You do get to help people, and that's absolutely amazing. And the work that I did at HRI, so HRI does immigration, it provides free legal services through the use of pro bono attorneys, and it's for people who are survivors of violence and human rights abuses, both here in the United States and in their home countries. And so it is a agency that once somebody is able to get whatever immigration status that they're applying for, they're safe, right? Because they've had to overcome these many times terrible, unthinkable things in their life prior to coming in to get help. And so you really are actively providing safety to somebody in that way. Okay. And then I got notice that one of the kids that I had started working with basically 5 years ago at this point just got their green card. Wow. And I remember meeting this kiddo when he was itty bitty, and now he's not so itty bitty because it took him 5 years to go through a process. And so that, that's amazing. Like now this kiddo can go to school and has the opportunity to, when he graduates from high school, he's a permanent resident of the United States. He's able to get financial aid and go to college and, make his life better. And not only his life, like he has a couple of sisters and he has a wonderful mom, all of these people will benefit from him being able to be safe now.
Right. Wow. Okay. So, well, what else about the practice of law? Or I guess let me go to what are some of the issues in the immigration field? I mean, because like I said, obviously there's a lot of things that's been going on in the news most recently, but and not just most recently, obviously some things with our last administration. And so I think people that's been paying attention realize that we definitely need reform in some areas. But once again, I'm not, an expert or anything like that. And I'm not trying to present you as expert either, but just in your experience, what are probably some of the issues that from people on the outside looking in, that you see or that probably needs to be addressed?
Oh yeah. So, I think that one of the most challenging parts, from the attorney perspective, one of the most challenging parts of immigration practice is that cases are so very, very fact specific. And a lot of people with very good intention try to share what they've learned from their own legal experiences, or from them going through the legal process, or from somebody that they know. And so we would have people come in and be like, well, I have a cousin, who, it's the exact same case. And you're like, oh, but I need you to tell me more about it so that I can understand, because it might be, but very likely it's not, because you and I are both attorneys, Shalonda, but we have had different life experiences. Right. And that would probably present a different legal case and might present additional opportunities for one of us. And so that's a challenge. But also the fact that not always the law, like the words of the law, but the way that it's being applied has changed. Certain policies that have come and gone and shifted within this administration, also the previous administration, and the way that these policies have been applied, that has also created challenges. The kiddo I was telling you about, I started working with that kiddo I really do think it was about 5 years ago. And there were some people 5 years ago who were able to process much more quickly. There were some people who would have, some of the work that I was doing, we were able to do from start to finish in almost a year's time. And then now, because of the way things shifted and changed, and as far as policy and processing time, there are people now who have been waiting for a very long time, even though the facts of their case are very similar to somebody else, but they just started, 3 months later, and that because of the rapidly changing policies and processes, then they've had a much longer wait.
Right.
And I mean, that wait is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that wait impacts, and not just waiting for a legal process to finish, but for instance, this kiddo didn't have access to healthcare. I mean, I say kiddo, I think he's probably about 11 now, right? So he was little. He's like little kid. Has access to being able to get to see a doctor, or being able to get eyeglasses, and fortunately there are a lot of community services that help children, but then there's also limits on those services depending on people's legal status and what they're, where they are in the immigration process. If you're just waiting for something, you don't have a legal status.
Right.
So
it seems like a lot of people then could just be kind of in limbo where, and then from what it sounds like, it can change, maybe one day. I mean, I don't know if it's from day to day, but just that your status or situations could change quite frequently.
Yes. I mean, that really is what it is. So there's a lot of, there's policy around the redefinition of what public charge is, and there's a multi-factor test on public charge. This is something that's happening right now.
Right.
And so the deadline for, or like the date that this is supposed to go into effect, is one day. If you apply the day before or a couple days before, and your information is received and processed before the deadline, then your process is different than somebody who applies after.
Right.
So it really could be a day-to-day thing. So was your package delayed in the mail by one day?
Right.
And so as an immigration attorney, you're aware of that and you do the best that you can to avoid that. But I know there are a lot of people who try to do immigration work on their own, which there are some things that people could do, and there's some things that that it's helpful to have somebody help you with.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, which is the value of having an attorney work with you, and not even just a private attorney, but like there's a lot of legal service agencies that can help with that as well.
Right. So I think I took a class, like immigration and law, like law and practice in law school. And what immigration law reminded me of, close things I could come to, was like tax law, basically. Just how convoluted it is, and just how, I don't know if you say, I guess, nuance. It's almost like one of those books. Remember those books, Choose Your Adventure? It's almost like if if you're going down this road and you pick A, then there's a totally different, what I'm saying? Then there's another adventure that you go on. But if you pick B, what I'm saying? It's like picking the different doors or picking the different options. You could end up in totally different spot. And that's just reminding me kind of, how that was. It was just like, well, if it's this situation, then it might be this. And if this situation, and just so many different. So it's like, it wasn't like a clear cut, black and white, this is what it is. And so, yes, so what you're saying, you definitely want somebody that knows, what they're doing, that has experience in immigration law. And just like with tax law, you want somebody that's staying up to date on the laws that are changing, and so it's the same with immigration law. If someone, has an issue with an immigration issue or something they're trying to obtain, they definitely want to make sure they have somebody that is knowledgeable and keep it up to date on the many changes that are taking place in immigration law.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're really fortunate here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to have so very many really good immigration attorneys, but also really good nonprofit agencies that are doing the work and do exactly that, right? They stay on top of what's going on. They're involved in advocacy to make sure that if a policy is going to be changing, to try to make it a fair change as much as possible, or to make it noted any disagreements that they have with the fairness, or to kind of point out any particularly problematic ways or harmful ways that law could be applied, so that, with the goal to either stop something bad from going into play, right, or protecting people's rights by making a very clearly stated objection to it, which is sometimes all that can be done, but you at least hope that in the long run those objections are noted, and maybe we can go back and fix wrongs that have been done through the way processes are applied inequitably or unfairly towards people.
Right. And you said, so of course you worked for the Human Rights Initiative. Are there any other nonprofit organizations that are actively helping people with immigration?
Yes, absolutely. So Raices is an agency that's Texas-wide, and they do phenomenal work. They have both a Dallas and a Fort Worth office, and then they have locations in San Antonio and Austin and Corpus Christi, and all over our state. And Catholic Charities also does really good immigration work. So they have the Catholic Charities of Dallas has a lot of attorneys who focus on different things. And then HRI, of course, Mosaic has some immigration attorneys who help with people who are, who've experienced domestic violence and also human trafficking. Let's see. I think Justice for Our Neighbors does immigration work of, and different agencies. So agencies are grant funded most of the time, right? And so they do the work that they're able to do at any given moment. And, when we would do presentations at HRI, we would talk about how call us if it's not us that can help you at a given moment, we could refer you to somebody who can.
Right.
And so the local agencies are good about working together to give people referrals to who might be able to help them. Because just because we're, just because your case type doesn't fit into what this one particular agency does, doesn't mean that they will be like, nope, sorry, we can't. Usually it's like, we can't, but here, call this number. They probably can, or they can direct you to somebody else who can. Okay. There's also this really great website. It's Immigration Impact, and they have a map on there where you can click on your state and pull up a list of service providers, and it tells you what kind of cases they do. So if somebody outside of Texas is looking for help, they can click on the map and click on the state and find the gazillions of service providers who are in South Florida or wherever.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And of course, I know the immigration and the issues. I mean, it's huge. It's not necessarily one simple solution that will just change everything with no magic wand. I understand that. So, but just narrow down. I mean, because the purpose of this podcast is to provide solutions, and because and I created this mainly because we always talk about problems, and I guess I'm just ready to talk about solutions. And like we were discussing earlier, feel like we're going to law school, we use it as a tool. So just in the realm of your experience in working with kids and the issues that you have seen on maybe a policy level, and just maybe one or two issues, do you have any suggestions or any ideas that could possibly help provide, either make things a little bit easier in the processes, or just solutions that you feel that maybe we would propose could probably get some work done?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'm going to go even above a little more broadly than the policy level. I really think that the solution to many of the different issues that we see in the immigration process is for the policymakers to have an understanding of the humanity of the people involved in the processes. Okay. Our immigration process affects human beings, and as human beings, we are all much more alike than we are different. And we are also imperfect. For asylum seekers, people come to the United States because what they are leaving is dangerous, is harmful, is unimaginably bad, and they're people. And many times, what is asked is for evidence of these horrible things that this person has experienced. And quite frankly, they don't have them. But if you think about it, if you're running from something for your life, are you going to take the minute to gather the evidence and take it with you? I mean, sometimes, yes, you might have something, but, the human in us is probably just going to try to get out. And so that's the thing. So viewing the system is affecting humans, and viewing the humanity and the likeness in between us, and having that impact the policy and the way the policies are in place, the way that people are treated throughout the processes. Like, absolutely, we have to have processes. We have to have policies, and policies dictate processes, and that's the structure on which systems are able to function, right? But remembering that these systems and these policies and these structures are affecting humans and are for the benefit of humans who are very much like us, instead of others or like faceless non-human numbers in a system.
Right. And that's very true, and I think that's policy making across the board. I mean, we could basically pick any issue, criminal justice and healthcare, and I think that is part of the problem, is that we have a lot of people, not necessarily the people, but maybe it's just the process of creating policy is where they have disconnected from the humanity and the practicality of that. And because I've been in position, as a hearing officer, with dealing with benefits and having to apply policy, and just feel like, okay, this policy is kind of far removed from this. I have this person that I'm talking to, but I'm having to apply the policy, and so just realizing that there is a disconnect. And so I don't know if you need more people that have actually had more experience writing policy. So I don't know if that's part of it. I'm assuming that, when policymakers, that they do some investigation, and hopefully they're talking to people that are on the ground. But that's kind of been, the experience I think, and I have probably both had, just in being in careers, that a lot of people, they get to that level of writing the rules, they are somewhat far removed from the actual practicality of applying the rules.
Unfortunately, I think that removal is really, really problematic and harmful, because I know that at different times, I've had the opportunity to work with organizations and provide input for organizations that are basically providing information to educate the policymakers, based on our on the ground experiences. And I always welcomed that opportunity, because you hope, right, that somebody does read it. Right. But I think you hear about these votes that happen so very quickly, or like overnight changes in policy, and people not not listening or not reading, not being informed. And that is, you know, that's a problem, and it's dangerous and it's disheartening, but you know, like you said, solutions. So keep moving forward with sharing your experiences, and like each one of us, as we become better informed, you know, people listening to your podcast are becoming informed by listening to this, and if you'd like, I can give you some links to some of the different agencies locally, and even that map that I was talking about, so that, you know, so people, if people find somebody who needs help, they can help direct them to the right place, and we ourselves can be informed and keep putting good information out there.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I hope to encourage, is that people be continue to be learners, and that we don't you know, we don't be satisfied with secondhand information, but it's like, let's go out and investigate ourselves and see what we can do to help. And so that, you know, that's the purpose of this podcast, the purpose why I invited you on, because, you know, I hear a lot of things in the news and what's going on, and I'm like, no, let me talk to somebody that's actually in the trenches. You know, let me get, you know, someone that's closer to the issue, as opposed to just kind of this, you know, secondhand information. And but also with the idea, because that was my thing, was like, what can I do to help? And so I was like, well, I can do this. I can use my platform to help get the word out. And so like you said, so basically that was, you know, what I was going to ask is, what can people do, you know, to get involved? But you're saying, so with these different organizations, so if they run into somebody that have a family member or have a friend, you know, you can refer them to these organizations. What I can do, I can post it, I guess, on my Facebook page or website. But what are, I guess, some other ways, like maybe volunteering or donating, or what are the ways can people get involved to help?
Yes, both of those. So, so volunteering, if, you know, different organizations have different volunteer or opportunities, and I think they, you know, so I know within HRI, when I was there, we had people who came in and did office work. We had pro bono attorneys who actually took on immigration cases and were mentored through that entire process by the staff attorneys. And even if they didn't have an immigration background, right, they were still an attorney who was able to take a case. I think that there were also people who helped with different holiday parties or different other client services opportunities. There's mentoring recently arriving or recently approved immigrants to help them get oriented into the community. I think I had sent you something about the DASH network, and that provides housing for asylum seekers while they're in the process. That could be a very long process. They're not people who have any sort of connection, but DASH provides them with housing and helps them get connected to their communities. I don't know. I mean, you know, I think that's that time. I think in time and talent giving, donations are always welcome. If people don't feel like they have the time to volunteer, or maybe don't have a talent that they think would be able to share, although I'd say probably everybody has talents that would help them volunteer. But donating money is helpful. Money helps agencies function, helps them provide the services. You know, there's needs that people have, doing donation drives for toiletries, or for clothing, for things like that. So if you feel the calling to do something, reach out to an agency and see what do you need right now? How might I be able to help? You know, we got calls from people who are like, how can I help? I could even come and sit and shred papers, or, you know, do something like that. And the thing is, that's a need. Those are real needs. Those are, you know, in offices and corporate structures, those are things that somebody pays for. And so if somebody is volunteering to come and do that, then that agency doesn't have that expense and can turn it into something else.
Right. Okay. Well, this is amazing. I really enjoyed our conversation. You're just a wealth of knowledge, information, and it does make me feel really good about being in the Dallas Fort Worth area because when I was interested in and not saying that I'm no longer interested, but I had a piqued interest in human trafficking as well. And when I just thought about getting involved, and because I'm originally from Kansas City, so I thought about where could I go to really get involved. I was thinking, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go to DC, because that's where the headquarters of a lot of major nonprofits. And so, but I found my way down south to Dallas. But I must say, I am, glad to see that there are a lot of nonprofits that are doing great work in the DFW area, and there's a lot of just in the location and the population that's here, it's almost needed. It's necessary for us. And so I'm glad to be a part of what's going on in Dallas and being able to help in that regard. Did you have any closing remarks or anything else you wanted to add, or?
Other than gratitude, I think no. I'm so grateful that I met you and that we were able to have this conversation today because like you said, we are really well situated in Dallas to be able to have such strong community organizations and also be able to do impactful work here. Right. So thank you.
Right. Oh, my pleasure all the way. So for our listeners, if you, I can try to get those links and post them either on my Facebook page or the website. But if someone is interested in finding out these organizations, you can go to the website at www.kingdomlawjustice.com, or you can contact me via email at kingdomlawllc@gmail.com or the Facebook page Kingdom Law and Justice LLC. Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of Kingdom Social Justice Solutions. And until next time, keep fighting the good fight and make every second